All right, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Backyard Millionaires.
We have returned.
We're here, we're back, and we're back. That's what I usually say. So anyways, today we do have a special guest in the studio with us, in the shed. The world headquarters. Yes. We'll get to him in a minute. We'll do a little introduction. But today's podcast, we're going to focus on doing what you love, creating a champion in your business, and just get a little bit into entrepreneurship, right? And how people get into entrepreneurship or they start a business and they fail miserably and they think they couldn't be a business owner.
Right.
But it's really because what they're doing, they don't have a passion for, right, Chris?
Yes. Yeah. I think if you don't have a passion for what you're getting yourself into, then you're not going to want to take those phone calls at 9 o'clock at night or at 10 o'clock. So it's one of those things where you absolutely better like what you're doing. It's not about the money. I know a lot of people always say,
right,
I'm an entrepreneur and I just want to make all this money. And
well, wait, I think you said something good before that even. You mentioned...
I always say something good.
Not always.
Not always. Okay.
No, you're not like me, but yes, you're close. What you said before that was it's all out of hard work, and I think a point to be said about what you said there was sometimes we have these corporate jobs where we're only working 60 hours a week, right? Because no one works a 40-hour week anymore.
No,
I mean, not if you're making money or not. And you hate it, and so you're never seeing your family, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to be a business owner because I want to see my family more, and I want to work 40 hours a week or whenever I want to, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that is not the case. If you're a business owner, you're actually working more than you are at your corporate job.
Oh, absolutely.
So the key, though, then, is what? The key to being... And then how are we so happy?
I don't know.
No, you do know.
Well, it's because you enjoy it. You know,
right.
With what we do, we love to help people. And that started with our My House Fitness, you know, watching somebody be successful, losing weight. Nutrition. Watching somebody go from, literally not able to do one push-up to be able to do 20 at a time. And somebody who couldn't do a plank for 10 seconds can go for 2 minutes. I mean, those sound so, fitness oriented.
But that's what it is for us. It absolutely boils down to helping people. So when we started our supplement company, it's because we saw the junk that was being sold, and we wanted to create things that were not filled with junk for people to have. So again, going back to helping people. And now Backyard Millionaires is helping people again, helping people realize their potential in business. So the second thing that you just said, though, that was a really great point was what?
Oh, I don't know.
We can't remember now. You said, no, isn't that great? Where's the assistant that's supposed to listen to everything we say? But the point of this whole podcast is going to be talking to Doug Guthrie, who we're going to introduce you to now, and talking about creating a championship in his own life. He is also an entrepreneur, and we're going to talk to him right now. Introduce him to you.
He's done both.
Yeah.
For Jen and I, we pretty much have been entrepreneurs since out of college. You kind of see our little bio there. We've just went right into it. Our families were with that.
And when we were not happy, we weren't helping people.
Yeah.
And we were making a lot of money. We were making millions of dollars, and we were miserable, and we gave it all up to do something else, to start a new startup, and now we're happy. So, right?
But even and with Doug here, let's introduce Doug.
Yeah. Meet Doug Guthrie.
Yes. Hey,
Doug, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, Doug, tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, your background in regards to business. Talk about the accolades of Ironman, which is awesome.
Yeah. So we're meeting Doug as a 2-time World Championship Ironman qualifier, right?
Yes.
Number one in the state of Florida. Number 5 in the world. Doug's very humble.
He's over here just
he's shaking his head, but you can't see that on the podcast. But yes, so we're gonna go from the beginnings of how he started out and how he got to where he is and all that good stuff. So go ahead and ask away, Chris. Yeah.
So I would really have to give credit to my father. He set a tremendous example for our entire family. I mean, he went to night school and started as a bank teller, and by the time he was 40 years old, he was bank president of a major bank in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome.
So he set the bar pretty high. Unfortunately, I knocked the bar off a little
as low as it can go, and then you built it back up again.
I lasted about, I had the greatest opportunity as kids growing up, but I didn't last very long in college, a year and 2/3, and I got a call from my mom at the Dell House, And it's funny that I would be the only one there at the Down House. I had to break in. It was after spring break. I had to weasel my way in. The phone rang. It was my mom. And she said, "I'm on my way to pick you up."
You're out.
You're done. So
you had what, a 1.1 average? Was it even a 1.1?
Well, in my major, it was very good, but it was those electives that gave me problem.
The ones you had to show up to.
Yeah, the only advice I would give a freshman in college is don't take Saturday morning classes at 8 o'clock.
Right,
No,
that's,
Not a
or
good
any
idea.
class at 8 o'clock, right?
You had everybody tell you that, huh?
Then I went...
So your mom came to pick you up because she's like, "You're out of here. We're not paying. You're not
Right.
trying. You're partying at the Delt House."
and the rent was due at the end of
The rent's always due.
the week, so I had
Right.
to find a job. So fortunately, I had some contacts. I went into the fine men's clothing business,
Okay.
and I sold clothes for a while. And then everything happens for a reason. God puts you in places. And then one of my customers was the president of a Mayflower agency, and I went to work with him.
Very
as a
cool.
sales and national accounts. I did that for a couple of years, and that was my only two jobs where I actually had
A job.
a W-2.
W2.
That's right.
Right.
Welcome. I've never had a W. Well, yeah, me too. I haven't had one of those in a long time. So that's cool.
Yes.
So you were, was that in Ohio?
That was in Cleveland, Ohio. That's
Cleveland,
right.
Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio. Indians.
Rocks.
Cleveland Rocks.
Yeah,
That's
Indians
where I'm
are in
from.
first place, and the Browns will win more than one game this year.
God, can the Browns just do something? I'm telling you, as a Browns fan, I'm with you. I agree. So, all right, so we were in Cleveland. You're making a good living at that job, and then what progressed? Because we both know, Chris and I know, and listeners are going to learn that you then decide to move into your own, being an entrepreneur. So how did that process happen?
So, I was doing really well. Owner of the company, I was 22 years old. He bought me a Rolex like everybody else in his family. But I wasn't really happy because he was kind of a tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
He had a successful company, but kind of a tyrant. And then one of my dad's customers that he banked had these fledgling, failing glass shops in Florida, and one happened to be in Orlando.
Okay.
And he heard that I was doing pretty well, and he wanted to bring me down to be partners with him in these glass shops. The only problem is I couldn't put even a nut and bolt together at the time.
You're so pretty.
Yeah, it was terrible.
What is glass, really?
You're just a pretty face. Okay.
So, but I took it anyway. It's one of those things where...
Opportunity.
Good point. We've done a podcast just a couple weeks ago. I love that. Was basically fake it till you make it. If you haven't heard that podcast, check it out. Fake it until you make it, which are signs of a successful entrepreneur, that you can do that.
Shake your head.
You just say, absolutely, I know all about that.
You didn't have YouTube back then.
No, so how did you figure it out then? So
what
what happened?
I did is when I showed up, the employees, they had been in place, and they were managed by a guy that worked out of Birmingham.
Okay.
So they were not managed. And I showed up, I was 22 years old, and they were all in their 40s.
Like, what's this kid doing?
Exactly.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about the glass business. So what I did is I immersed myself in it. I went out with the auto glass installers, and I learned how to do it because I can't manage them if I don't know what I'm doing myself.
Yeah.
So good.
So I kind of got over those humps, and then a couple of years into it, my partner decided he wanted out, and we had this double-edged sword buyout deal, and it kind of went south in a hurry. And
most of those do.
then I got an eviction notice.
It went really bad.
It went really bad. And then I got and so my wife at the time and we had to make a decision. We're down here 2 years.
Right.
We're not going to be able to keep this business. We have a choice. We can either start our own and take a huge leap, or move back to Ohio with our tails between our legs.
And that's not an option.
This wasn't an option.
You cannot go back to the cloud state from the sunshine state.
And then what happened is
not hating.
In the middle of that whole process of having to get new leases and reincorporate and all this other stuff, we had a miraculous divine intervention. We had a hailstorm in 1990.
I remember that.
And we did more business in 5 weeks than we would have normally done in an
I just got
12
goosebumps.
months.
Do you know what? I just got
Everybody
goosebumps.
Who's listening,
I literally just got
Orlando
goosebumps.
was covered in white hail.
It happened at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I
and it
remember
happened
that,
on I-4, which doesn't move, and it happened at UCF.
Yeah.
Which is parking lot city, right?
I'm serious goosebumps right now because had that not happened, you probably would not have been as successful.
I would have definitely never started Guthrie Glass.
Guthrie Glass.
I would not have had the finances I would not had the cash to do that.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is a huge point to, you stepped out on faith. I mean, and you guys know on the podcast, if you listen to it at all, you guys know where we stand with faith and how God works in our lives. And clearly here's another example of that. So you stepped out in faith and God brought you the answer. A gold mine, a hailstorm.
Place, though. Right. I didn't decide after the hailstorm.
No, you were moving in
Everything
faith.
was already incorporated.
Right.
I came back to the office, and this is back when the old thermal fax machines were what we
I used to love that paper. That fax paper is so soft. Remember that?
Our fax machine was down the hall, and I walked in, and I looked, and it was like all the way down the hall, and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
That is awesome.
And they're like, the hailstorm. I'm like, hailstorm? Oh, yeah.
That's so cool.
So we already had Guthrie glass invoices. They had been delivered, and so when we wrote everything on up, I think statute of limitations is passed in case well, we committed anything that was, bad.
No.
And it worked out just fine, and that business was grew handsomely for a
long time.
So there's your start.
So now, go ahead.
Really,
sorry, Chris.
There's your start. You really
successful
have that
business.
Great opportunity come knocking. Which, hey, sometimes luck happens. And we call that faith, and that's divine intervention coming down to say, hey, this is what's going to happen, and it happened for you. So then talk about how all of a sudden, how
are you now where you're at now? What changed?
Here your business blew up. At what point did you say, maybe this is not what I want to be doing? Because I know that's part of it.
So the big thing is there you have a dream, but you're also maybe a little bit misguided, because I was chasing dollars as much as I was chasing my passion for.
And you always are at the beginning, for sure. That's
well, you got to pay your bills. Like, we kind of talked about this, where you have to eat, but I guess the point of where we're going with this is, if you're not happy, the money doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It became a problem. It became
a problem instead of an asset.
Yeah, and I was working 80 hours a week. I wasn't able to take vacations. There was times when I would fly to take a vacation, and then when I got on the ground, my cell phone would ring, and I had to get on a plane to come back. I would have to go to my shop in Lakeland for 8 weeks and do actually the auto glass installation when I was the CEO of the company, because my guy hurt his back, and so you gotta do what you gotta do.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Yep.
So at the end of the day, what happened is I ended up working all those hours, and paying your bills is one thing, but then it becomes a little bit clouded when your bills now become country club bills, and you have your own golf cart, and all these
lifestyle
things.
Bills.
It's lifestyle bills.
That's it.
Right? And
it's not filling the hole of happiness.
No, not at all. And then my health suffered because of it.
Wow.
Okay.
So talk about that. What exactly happened? Was it the stress and just everything just started really, like what?
When you say your health suffered, give us paint a picture, because we know you're a 2-time world champion Ironman qualifier. Okay. So if you don't know what that is, Google it.
I worked
tell us where you
all
were.
the time.
Tell us.
I worked all the time. I would wake up.
What'd you look like? What were you doing? What's your day like?
My day was like, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would start the day with a cigarette and coffee. I would get calls from contractors.
That's not a breakfast of champions.
Anxiety would build.
Not now.
Towards the end, I would literally, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, start to have anxiety attacks.
About Monday.
Monday.
And so, how many packs of cigarettes were you smoking a day?
At least a couple. I dipped Copenhagen. I mean, I could smoke and dip at the same time and eat a sandwich.
Now, think about this now. So, I have a lot of past clients at My House Fitness that are very successsill
business owners.
Not even that.
Just in general? Executives.
Executives. They'd have that same story. They'd sit there on Sunday and fret all day long, knowing that Monday morning was coming, and they had to go to quote unquote work.
And you know what?
And hold on.
Go ahead.
My point of it is here you are, an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. Here's your business. This is your business, and you're in that same boat as this executive that's saying, I hate my job. I got to move on. It's unbelievable how there's so much the parallel similarities.
Because you weren't loving what you're doing.
Exactly.
And part of that was, too, after Sunday I played golf, and then we'd have several, maybe many pitchers after, and then I'd have to come home and pass out. Yeah. And then I would wake up. So I was drinking
to cover it up
entirely too much.
Yeah.
You're using it. You're using it as the cigarettes, the dip, the chip, the dip, the cigarettes, and food. Yeah, the food too. People fill holes with food, right? So you got food, you got your cigarettes, you got the dip and the alcohol. to kind
I
of
had a
numb,
nice little middle-aged pot belly.
right? Pot belly, to numb really the anxiety that was about your business. So what
here
changed
we are,
it?
we're talking about entrepreneurship. A lot of people saying, I want to start
and we're telling you it's terrible.
So now we're trying to say, okay, I know exactly. We're like, what's going on here? But okay, now tell us, like, when did you make a decision to say, you know what, maybe
can't do this
I need to be happy, and maybe this is not this business that's, even though being successful,
and even though the money was
happy.
there,
So it was a husband and wife business, and those are challenging.
Yeah, we've done a podcast on that as well. So check that one out.
So podcast number 5.
Everything was dysfunctional. Work became dysfunctional. Family dysfunctional, and at the point in time, our good friend, told me that, you know, we were out on the golf
Double
course.
D.
Yeah, 3D.
Yeah. Oh, 3D. Right.
Oh, yeah. The middle name is David.
That's
he
right.
says,
3D. Right.
You know, you're miserably content. And with all these other people out here are making plenty of money and all this other, they're miserably content.
I love that.
And you're too young to live like that. And you know, he's right. And a lot of people are miserably content. There's
Absolutely.
no way
Great.
to spend
That's
your life.
Really
we only
good.
have one.
Right.
So
short.
Usually 30 years of this, if not more.
If not more.
Yeah.
Yep.
So eventually, I ended up in the emergency room, heart palpitations, and I went to.
Did you smoke a cigarette on the way there? Absolutely did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might not get another one for a couple hours. I'm gonna suck this thing down.
I actually, before I smoked a cigarette on my way to my first triathlon, if the truth be known. So he told me that I was, I needed to clean up my act. I was on high blood pressure medication. I'd been through a divorce at that time, and my new bestie, which is now my wife for going to be 13 years. Awesome. She was in there, and the doctor was telling both of us that I was going to have to be on this old man medication.
Lord.
And she looked.
And how old were you?
I was 37 years old.
37. So I'm 38. So basically, okay.
Like, you're an old man.
I'm an old man. I am.
Because you lived your.
Because I have ice on my back.
She currently
because
does
I currently
like
do have ice on my back because I'm apparently not following my own advice. Go ahead, Doug.
She looked at me like, I am not hitching my rope to this wagon. And I thought, well, I need to fix it. So I went back to our friend Triple D.
Triple D.
And I said, you got to help me. I got to clean it up. So he put me in the pool, and I started swimming. And I did 25 at a time. 25, you know, not laps, just one lap at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to get out.
Yeah.
Because I was too tired. And then it built and built and built. And then I just started swimming every day. And then.
Did you cold turkey the cigarettes?
No, I still smoked and drank.
Right. Okay.
But I was healthy
Step
because I was swimming.
number 1 is was the exercise. Okay, gotcha.
Swimming. That's
right.
That's
we've all been there.
We're only kidding ourselves.
And you probably went ahead and went for the 50 and said, you know, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be an easier way, and maybe it's the cigarettes.
Is that what happened?
No. Well, actually, I met a guy who is still very close friend. I'm actually his coach now for his first Ironman, and he conned me into doing a relay for a sprint triathlon, and I was going to be the swim part. And yes, I did smoke cigarettes all the way to that event, and I almost drowned, even though I'd been swimming. I almost drowned. It was terrible, and if I could have got to a lifeguard, I would have quit. I would have never even done. But I couldn't get to the lifeguard, so I had to finish.
Right.
So I finished, and it was terrible. I was the last one out of the water.
Not great for somebody that's super
for
competitive.
anybody's a triathlete out there. I was 15 minutes in a 400-meter open water swim. Okay. But then, you know, I didn't want to accept that, and so I came back and we did another one that was much better. And at the same time, I started a different path with my career too. I left my company. I basically got in a situation where I was done. The money wasn't worth it.
Now, let me ask you this. Were you able to sell your business, or you just let it go?
I gave the keys to my brother, and I walked out the door, and I never went back.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's how important it was.
10 years, all my blood, sweat, and tears.
Wasn't worth.
No, it wasn't worth it. So I gave him the keys. I left. And
now, does he still do it?
No, he does not do it.
Did he sell it, or just say, forget it, I can't do it either? We won't get into it.
We won't get into it.
Okay, good. That's another podcast about family and at work.
Oh,
yeah.
Tough. Yeah.
All right, so go ahead.
So then I started work with a company, and as a 1099, I was at the bottom of the barrel. I was selling prepaid collections door to door. So if I didn't sell, I didn't eat.
Brutal.
Pretty tough.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of reinvent myself, and it taught me a lot about myself, which paralleled what I was learning in
the
triathlon.
The journey.
So 14 years later, they both paralleled, and then I've come to a new destination or jumping off point.
Yeah.
Which is where I am now.
Well, so
Amazing.
I love this story, and I love that. I guess the point of the podcast, which is going to be the next question, is, you did you, and which I know the answer, but our listeners don't. Did you give up on being an entrepreneur after it didn't work out? You got this job. You clearly became successful with sales, and you moved your way through that. You were still doing triathlon. Let's talk. I want to compartmentalize it because people need to know the story of how you lost the weight. You did triathlon. You're doing sales. Became a 2-time Kona World Championship qualifier, right? So how does that happen? Let's talk about that, and then let's talk about what you're doing now afterwards.
Well, I mean, it takes years.
And let's talk about the pitfalls. Yeah, let's talk about that.
I mean, it takes years. I remember being out on a run and coming up to my house and seeing the record down at the end of the street and thinking, holy crap, that's the repo man. I better come in the back door.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it.
There's a lot of failure along the way,
Yeah.
but you can either choose that to be a rock to hold you down or a stepping stone to step up on.
Right.
So
and it's not easy.
It's not.
It's not easy.
never
easy.
easy.
It's not easy starting anything from scratch. It's not easy to be a champion if it's within your own company
Triathlon or
someone
a
else's
business
company.
world
It's
or
not
whatever.
easy in a triathlon. Exactly. It's
You have
it's
to
a
be
journey.
willing to do what other people
Aren't.
simply will not.
That's
Right.
exactly it.
Our Pastor Norm did a quote, and I wish I had it in front of me, but it said exactly, if you're not willing, and Lord is going to give me the answer here, if you're not willing to do the small things, you won't be able to do the big things.
Right.
It's true.
And that's probably not it, but it was something similar to that, right?
Yeah.
So exactly, you have to be able to do all things and not fail anyway. Go ahead, Chris.
And then also talk about, obviously most of our podcast listeners, I'm sure, understand Ironman. They've heard of it. They know.
They don't know if it's swim, bike, run, or bike, run, swim, but they've heard of it.
And I don't know the distance, which is it's an ungodly amount. It really is.
Well, let's
talk about how you got to the point of pushing your game to become that type of athlete. I mean, that's not easy. I'm an Ironman, and I look at Doug, and I'm in envy of Doug. So how did you get to that point of your life of just pushing yourself and doing those extra things to make yourself a champion?
Well, the problem is I have a kind of a compulsive, addictive personality.
What?
So,
You do.
What?
So I got in.
Nobody here has that, by the way. Nobody.
And I just got hooked in, and one thing led to another, and then, I remember watching the Ironman. It's 2.4 mile swim, 112 bike, and a 26.2 a marathon. All in one day,
right?
All
People
in
know
one
this
race.
is not over 3 days.
Or less hours.
That's a question
17 or
people
less hours,
ask,
that's
right?
right.
They have to do it in less than 17 hours, right? 17 or less.
17 or less.
Or you get
So
ripped
I
off.
remember seeing it when I was a kid in Cleveland. I was in high school and watching and thinking, man, I ran track and field and played a bunch of sports, and I thought, I can't even imagine doing this race. And then here I am, fast forward, I'm 40 years old, and I finished my first Ironman distance race. And as some people will do, they go out and get a tattoo,
right,
for their Ironman.
I did.
And I did as well. And
It's
the funny
supposed to keep
story
you.
about the tattoo is
Mhm.
I went into the tattoo guy
right,
with a little postage stamp size tattoo, and I'm not the type he normally tattoos.
right.
A
A
skinny
little baby
little,
one. Little half-inch.
little athlete guy, shaves his legs and all this stuff, and and then he he said, first of all, the tattoo is way too small, and he wanted the background on the Ironman and all that stuff, and I said, I think that eventually I'd like to qualify for Hawaii. I mean, I have no chance.
Which is the World Championships.
This is
okay?
the one you see
For
on
those of you
TV.
that don't know, you can't just show up to Kona, Hawaii, and run this race. So it's not like
Right.
any other Ironman that you would sign up for, unless we won't get into how other ways you can
There's
do it. But go ahead.
2,000
Yeah.
qualifiers
There you go.
around the world, right?
Yes.
So that's it. So then he proceeded to give me a lecture about goal setting, and that
You're
it
a
was
tattoo guy, right?
the tattoo guy,
Right.
and that there
Love
was
it.
no way that
But he's a
he,
business owner too, right?
he is a business
There you
owner.
go.
And so
Yeah.
what he did is he tattooed his neck. This is a story.
He's
told
got
me.
a great story too.
He
yes.
does. So Jeremy says, you see this tattoo on my neck? My goal was never to work in an office, so I tattooed my neck so nobody would hire me.
Right.
And here I am.
Right.
And he still has
Pushed
his
himself.
shop. He did.
Pushed himself
Love
to
it.
have his business because that's how desperately he knew
He wanted it.
He wanted it.
Absolutely.
So he sent
love
me
it.
away. I went to grab a couple Poddingtons and came back, and I got the tattoo. I got the lay on it. And for the next 10 years, I had
We'll put a picture on the website so you guys can see it. Go ahead.
I had people ask me about the tattoo, and they saw the lei around the neck, and I would be asked, well, have you been to Hawaii? And the answer would be no. Oh, but I'm going to get there.
Right.
Yes. Not yet.
Not yet. So I had to answer that
it.
question for 9 years, and then
for 9 years. So this is the part that's super important for everybody to understand.
Absolutely.
Going back to your faith journey of life in general, and just not on your time, but you don't give up because it's your passion. So it wasn't like you got that tattoo and then you spent a year training and you made it to Kona. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
9 years.
Yeah, 9 years.
And I tried and failed.
And not even just 9 years of you just doing it a couple
Being
times.
healthy, right?
It's called 9 years of training.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Oh,
I quit smoking. I quit drinking.
No.
That was all. And I cleaned up my act.
There was no point in giving that up.
Yeah.
I want the story to be 2-time world championship smoking, drinking Ironman.
I still drank.
you out there.
I still drank a little bit, but not to the level I did. And then finally, I met she's a great friend of mine, still, Ninja. And we started training together, and all the way up to Ironman Louisville. And I'd failed 3 times, once at Louisville and twice at Wisconsin. I was in great shape. Week before, we have a puppy. He's snapping food off the stove. I go to grab him off the stove, and I have kind of a trick shoulder that I injured in my...
And this is 2013?
This is 2013.
13, yeah.
In my beer drinking softball days, and my shoulder goes out of the socket.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for YouTube, because my lovely wife Shannon went on YouTube and found a YouTube video on how to put in a dislocated shoulder.
Love it.
And she put it in after giving me a very stern lecture about what did I do, and then I had to race the next Saturday in Louisville to qualify for Hawaii. I went to the pool the next Monday, and I couldn't swim at all. My race was on Sunday. I can't swim on Monday. Could be a problem.
I remember that. I raced that race. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So, you know what? It all worked out. I got my slot.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's so great.
So
it just goes testimony to show. Absolutely. It takes hard work, and it's just like anything else. If you're starting your own business or any of that kind of good stuff, you got to do what you love. You got to do what's your passion, and you got to keep working. And it's hard.
At the end of the day, if you weren't passionate about being a Kona Ironman, then you would have given up several times over 9 years.
Something major, though.
Oh yeah. No.
I broke my leg in 2011, and I was on crutches for...
Guys, a tree fell on him
a tree fell.
when he was on
You could take that as a sign of God to say, you're done.
I needed a rest. Yeah, I failed in qualifying in 2011, and I got hit by a tree, and I broke my greater trochanter, and I was on crutches with no weight bearing for 3 months, and I had to learn how to walk again. And so it was less than 12 months later, I got my slot.
Right.
The dislocated shoulder happened the week before. I'm not injury prone. I just,
it's just
stuff happens.
Random.
Right?
Random, random. So you've done that, qualified for Kona, which has led you into what you're doing now. So we've already found out that you own a business. It made you unhealthy. You hated it. You walked away from it. You didn't sell it. That's how bad you hated doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And which is a business owner, we all know. You put all the sweat and tears in something, you want some cash out of it at the end, right? So that's how bad it was. Now you are a business owner again, really, and now you are doing something. So explain how you got back to that. So what are you doing now, and let's get into that.
So you have a thing on the wall, let your faith be bigger than your fear. And after the second time I went to Hawaii, my daughter, Amanda, who is a brilliant graphic design person who works with a large commercial real estate firm.
Beautiful, great personality.
She said, Dad, you should be a coach. And I was like, I don't want to be a coach. I didn't have the self-confidence that I could actually guide others to be successful the way I guided myself. I was actually self-coached to Hawaii, but I didn't think I'd do it for others. And she said, no, you should do it. And I looked about, the qualification for USA Triathlon, and it got down to where I had 1 hour to submit my application to be considered for this class, and I called. I needed a athlete testimonial, and I called my buddy Mike, and he's an attorney and usually very busy. And I said, Mike, I need a favor, but I need it right away.
Like now.
Now.
Like
it's gotta be
5
turned
minutes
in
from
10
now.
minutes.
Not even today. Like now.
And he turned that. First of all, I got him. He turned around the testimonial. 10 minutes later, I had the application in, passed the class. I ended up getting hired at the YMCA as their triathlon coach. It's been one of the greatest, most rewarding things that have ever happened to me.
But you're doing this on the side at this point.
I'm doing it
right?
on the side.
Doing it on the side, right?
And so in the middle of that, we needed to buy a bigger house, and so
we needed to because you were going to do it.
Right.
Well, I'm just going to be Shannon as one of Shannon's friends, the wife. It was going to happen.
It was going to happen, but the problem is that I knew that my largest client through the company I was doing the 1099 with was leaving me, and that I was going to lose. Not only was I going to increase my house payment by
lose the
50%
income.
greater, but I was losing 50% of my income. I didn't tell her.
No. Does she get to learn on this podcast?
No, I told her after. two months after we moved into the house, I told her. But
you step out on
a limb.
Faith.
In the meantime, I had another collection agency who wanted to hire me. And they would have paid me a salary and paid me enough money to cover that house payment and plenty more. I would have never had to worry about anything, but I couldn't take the YMCA job because I would have to come to his office every day. So I said no to the collection agency job. I took the YMCA job, and I took a leap of faith, and I'm not even close to having to worry about that house.
And you're not looking back.
And a year and a half and not looking back.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome. So where we're at with the story, that guys, what we want you guys to know here is the most important part of this podcast and why we're doing this is, so you listen to our podcast, and they're like stepping stones, right? So if this is your first one, I highly suggest you go back and start at the beginning, because we talk about, so you have an idea. So everybody has great ideas, but the point of this podcast is, but do you love it?
Right.
Because just because you have a night with the glass company, and even with us, with Roofing Brothers and our construction company that we had, you might have a great idea that everybody needs, but if you don't love it, you don't have a passion for it, then you are not going to be successful at it, because it takes more than your corporate job to make it successful. And going through the process of, maybe some of you guys are sitting out there saying, well, how do I know what I love? Because it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but until you're on the other side of it, you can't understand the do what you love and you never work a day in your life. And I think people take that and go, yeah, whatever. I like to lay on the couch and watch television.
I love to make money.
Or I like to make money. And so you aren't successful at figuring out what it is you love, because you're so far removed from doing anything that you really care about. You don't even know what you love. So I guess maybe my question is, before we wrap this up with you guys, and I'll go to Chris and then Doug, is if somebody is out there and they're listening to this podcast, they have a great idea, they started a business, they hated it, they quit, they're back at their corporate job, or they're still at the beginnings of figuring out what it is. How do they figure out to know, this is what I love to do?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it has to do, it's if you don't mind putting in the extra work. If you realize that you don't mind putting that extra work in, then maybe that is what you're starting to find out, is you can see that's more of your passion. Doing those extra emails at night, doing those extra researching on whatever that topic is, doing those extra things, immersing your time and energy when you could be, like you said, sit on a couch, spend time with your family. And I'm not saying take away your family time, but I'm saying if it's those types of things where it becomes less effort, that would be one sign. Absolutely.
Okay. Doug, do you have an answer to that? I know it's a big one.
I would agree with that. I know that, from a year and a half ago now, I coach over 40 people now.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
And being able to see them progress. And then when somebody sends me a text at 9 o'clock, and they're like, did you see my run? Go look at my run.
Right. They're excited.
And I'm as excited to see it as they are. Versus getting a call from a contractor saying, are you going to be out on my job site at 6:30 with your glass?
Right.
Two pretty different things.
Absolutely. Right. So I think that, I'm going to answer my own question. I'll ask
myself.
I think that that what the root of all that is, right, is really getting to what the root, we are similar, because really what the root of it is we like people. and we like helping people, right? So if you like people and you like helping people, doesn't mean that you want to own a gym or you want to be a triathlon coach. Maybe it has to do with being a marriage counselor, and maybe you're the best damn marriage counselor there is, right? You're going to be the best triathlete coach there is. We're going to be the best at what we do. So it really boils down to, what is it that makes you happy? And then it can be a million different businesses that go into that. What makes us happy is helping people. And that goes with this podcast, and that goes with the gym, and that goes with all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But it's not just one area. So don't narrow your mind when you're thinking about what you love to do and what makes you happy. Because you can start with one thing, just starting with, for us, we like to help people. Yeah. And where can that take you? And so there's a million different things that we could do to help people.
And then be the champion at it.
And be the best at it. And be the best at it.
That was the other thing my dad taught us when we were young. He said, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're a garbage man, a mailman, whatever it is. Whatever you do, just be the best.
Right.
That's it.
Absolutely. That's great.
And from teller to CEO.
Teller to CEO. That's right. I love it. Well, that's a great, I'm glad you guys joined us today. Thank you so much, Doug, for your time, and what a great story. We'll have some notes on Doug's business on our website, as well as the picture of the tattoo, of course. So if you're interested in any of that, you can look for it there. And we look forward to talking to you guys again next time.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.